Yeah, thanks, IT. Hi, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Our online event will be starting in 10 minutes. So now, everyone, you can settle your seats. If you have a nice play, let's turn on the cameras and let's have a chat with me and on the speaker here. Hope everyone have a great seminar. Yeah, my name is Darts. Yeah. Welcome to this online event called Developing Your Edge with Tech-led Innovation. I'm Vietcetera. I'm honored to take everyone in the next 90 minutes and discuss with you regarding our topic today. Yeah, and it's also a pleasure today to have the opportunity to participate in the event with you all about the topic that really interested us all in this period. Our program is fortunate is taking place online, and I believe that we are not just from one region or cities. Everyone, please, if you can't, please type in the chat box and let me know which area you are in. By the way, I'm from Ho Chi Minh, Saigon, and it's almost 10.
I know I mentioned it because maybe I don't look like from Saigon.
Yeah, I see that there are so many people from coming from Ho Chi Minh. Yeah, the center of economic. Yeah. So, how are you? How are you guys? So it's very nice to talking to you today. If possible, please send flowers, send hearts to the chat box to share to boost up our energy before we start our Zoom, and say hi to other viewers also. Today is the last Saturday morning of September, and it's going to be the last quarter of 2021. There's an upcoming good news that things are going to be better soon. It's really our time to charge ourselves with full energy and knowledge to prepare for the new normal. Today's program has a lot of people visitors, and the event invitation has been widely spread out amongst those who are working in the office and also for those who are business owners. So if you are currently working in a professional office environment, give me number 1 in the chat box. And if you are a business owner, give me number 2. By the way, I'm a business owner. Hi, IT. Can I have some background music? Turn on. Yeah. Yeah, I see that there are business owners, there are office workers. I also start to see flowers, sunflowers. Yeah. Our event will be starting in 2 minutes. Welcome everyone. Just remind again that like our seminar today is host online. So if you have a nice seat, feel free to turn on your camera and interact with our speakers. Happy to see you here. I see that the participants are coming. We have 27. I believe it will come in up to 100. That's normal. An event of Solvay. Yeah. So as I said, if you are coming from a professional working environment, give me number 1 in the chat box to let me know. If you are a business owner, give me number 2. Oh, I see Yuki also give me number 1 and 2. Thanks, Yuki. Hai Vân, Hai Tỷ Bùi, Hai Minh Ngọc. Yeah, before we start, I think it's time for us to have a small game. I would like to invite you all into a small game to warm up. Just a small game, so I kindly ask for your participation. During this time, apparently, we see how digital technology has supported us to overcome the situation. And I do believe that each of us here has at least one time interact with the technology activities, like the way we use QR code to check our health status, or we use online payment instead of using cash. With that said, our question today is, when you hear about the term new technology, what is the words that pops in your mind? You can either scan the QR code on the screen or click on the link that will be pasted in the chat box.
Can you show the QR code that? Can we show the QR code?
Hi, IT, can you please show the QR code? Yeah. Please click on the link, or you can visit use your camera to scan the QR code, and you will be directed to a page that waiting for your submission. We are starting to get some answer. I already typed mine. Let me know if you have any struggle in typing in your answer. We will have you. Feel free to participate in this game, because I'm very pleased to understand what pops in your mind regarding the terms new technology. Hi, IT, can you please help us to show the answer? Wow. So I see the biggest words: automation. I see cloud. I see machine learning. I see cloud-based. I see AI, digital transformation, scalable. That's a good one. Retargeting, e-wallet. Wow, machine learning and change. Oh, Internet of Things, IoT, innovation. There are so many words that very relevant, and actually like it from very different perspective. And it's very surprising that like only by one term new technology, we from different background giving us many words that pops in your mind. Now I see these. Now I see some more words. Can I see some more words? I already see digital transformation. I see cloud-based. Okay. Yep. Thanks, IT. And from our perspective, I'm very impressed with the two words. I don't know what you think, but I'm impressed with the two words, automation and cloud-based, because like it's very relevant with what my company and my clients are really like looking for. As a business owner myself, I often discuss with my peer and client about the matter of digital transformation and also digital first and so on. Many of them only jump into business, self-business, while there are many mid-range businesses are on their digital transformations. Hence, what I see is we have no clue, and they also have no clue what to do in order to take advantage of new emerging trends in their business as a systems or must-have process. So understanding the concerns, we at BeluxCham decided to cooperate with the Solvay Brussels School to organize this webinar, Developing Your Edge via Tech-led Innovation. We're also honored to receive support from other co-organizers, including CCIPV, CEEC, iCham, NordCham, and SEC. Joining us today, there will be the two respected speakers, Mr. Hao Tran, co-founder and CEO of Vietcetera, and Professor Hao Tran, lecturer at Solvay Vietnam, founders of Darts-ip. Mr. Hao currently holds the position of CEO of Vietcetera Media, a digital media network that he co-founded in 2016. His insight regarding the emerging trends in Vietnam and Greater Southeast Asia has been featured on many credible media outlets such as Monocle, CNBC, CNN, The Washington Post. He also gives advice to a number of SMEs, family office, and Fortune 500 companies seeking for expertise in Vietnam. And also our second guest, Professor Hao Tran. He had over 20 years of international working experience, especially in Southeast Asia and Vietnam. A born entrepreneur, he already led to the successful 3 tech companies, and there's the name Transwide, Bancam International, and Darts-ip. Since 2010, Professor Hao Tran has been teaching the MBA course, Business and Financial Planning at Solvay Brussels School Vietnam. Then finally, me, I'm Vietcetera, the host of today's webinar. I'm the founder of Antit Marketing Network, a startup aiming to influence the market with goodwill marketing. I'm also running a healthcare franchise business, and for sure, I'm an alumnus at Solvay. If you are a Solvay alumnus, show me your hands. Yeah. Great to see you here today. And as I previously mentioned, the technological landscape is currently changing too fast. What was trending 5 years ago may no longer exist today. This has proved to us that there is no single tools that can help us cope with this constant state of disruption. But more often than not, many businesses are relying too much on using a tool uses or application to tackle the challenge instead of determining the root of the problems, an outdated business model. Really, we hear a lot about digital transformations these days, but lots of companies do not factor in the need to adjust their business model. To start this topic, I would like to invite Professor Hao Tran into the discussion firstly. Hello, Professor Hao Tran.
Good morning, Dan.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, now I would like we would like to hear your opinions on why the companies are too slow in changing, and how the companies can reinvent their business model to fit the current context.
That talking about current context with the pandemic, I think a lot of companies are now forced to change their business model and to embrace new technologies. And I would quickly make a distinction between 2 different ways of embracing new technology.
Yeah.
One, and I will give you a few examples just now, is to use new technology. And the other way to embrace new technology is to create new technologies.
Wow.
In terms of embracing new technologies, we see with the pandemic a huge shift towards digitalization. And it's about any aspect of the life of a company. Of course, it impacts the sales channel. If you look at so many clothes, footwear companies that now are booming online, I would mention one example because it's very much in the news now. It's Nike. Their sales online have been booming while they would have never dared to cut their existing channels without the pandemic. Another example with the another extreme of the spectrum of changing the sales channel is the small shops in Saigon. If you have a small shop and you pay a high rent, and you are the best seller producer of chai latte. I love that. but nobody can come to your shop. What do? You start working, for example, with 𝐄𝐯 and you start selling online. And suddenly your chai latte becomes a bestseller. You sell to all around Saigon. Your business becomes scalable. Luckily for you, you don't need much ingredient. And then what will you do in a few months when you can reopen your shop? You have two businesses. You have your offline business in your shop with your full menu, and then you have every minute an order coming for your chai latte, the best in Saigon. So you have basically created a new business. So that is for the sales channel. In terms of marketing communication, many change as well. I will just illustrate that with what we call inbound marketing. So people used to have salespeople contacting would-be customers. Now with inbound marketing, you can dramatically change that and have the customers coming to you. You use fantastic tools like VidBeyond, which allow you to send videos within your email. And what happened? You get contacted by the people that you would have in the past had to chase. So these are very quick examples of the very, at the same time, important but not so complex change that are coming because these technologies exist. Companies, big and small, have to use them. So that's where I see the current change, the current impact of new technologies that a lot of companies in whatever sector they are and wherever in the business model, they can use these new technologies.
Yeah, so very insightful. I can share with you guys that like I'm also small shop owners, but like during the time we couldn't change so far because like we were in like custom made, tailor-made fashion, and we couldn't change. So I believe that like the business model is very important. And since we just touched into the topic of business model, I would like to invite Mr. Hao to share your experience with Vietcetera as well. At first, I know that Vietcetera wasn't owned by the tech media company as it is today. To be precise, I believe that it was originally a lifestyle one. So how did Vietcetera undergo the process of reinventing its business model?
Yeah, thank you, Dat, for first welcoming me to the webinar today, and for Professor Harold, of course, being a co-guest. To answer the question about the business model, so Vietcetera, for those of you that don't know, is a media network. We own a .com publishing page, vietcetera.com. It's a news website, but we also publish much more than just articles. We do a lot of podcasts, we do videos, original content, which we monetize through sponsorship and advertising. How our kind of business model has evolved is that publishing has always been a very legacy business. You know, if you look at the history of it, it predominantly is in print. It's you know, hard copy kind of publishing, and that's where Vietnam really started in the media world. You know, some 20-25 years ago, really anchored by print. And if you fast forward to today, everything's very digital. So in our space, we never had print. It always started in digital, but the way that we monetize was very basic. We only kind of monetized the eyeballs, the page views that were being generated on the page. But we began to innovate by really focusing on formats and also focusing on original content. And what I mean by formats is looking at global trends and seeing what's missing in the market. And in this case, podcasts, for those that don't know, it's an audio form of content, which isn't that new, actually. It's very similar to radio per se, but there are different ways of distributing that content. So that's where the, I guess, tech element comes in. We have tech that we develop in-house, how we organize content. It's called our content management system. We use a lot of data. I think people get confused when we say tech too, because people think like, oh, are you inventing something new, like a new technology? Not necessarily. We're leveraging new technology. So in our case, for example, we use a lot of third-party software to do data analysis. Really, Google Analytics is a form of data analysis, but it's very basic. It just tells you like how many views you're getting, how many users you have on the website, but it actually goes beyond that. It helps inform strategic decision-making, like what content you should be making, because the response to it is so much higher as a ROI, return on investment, in terms of production compared to other forms of content. So, when you say tech media, yes, we are more of a media company that leverages technology rather than creating proprietary technology. So that's how we kind of innovate on our business model, really leverage technology to innovate by developing new formats, by better making strategic decisions, leveraging technology. And of course, our team is very agile when it comes to media. We have to be, because the media industry is full of companies and leaders that are actually very, very old school in Vietnam. They're very kind of tied to their ways, which have done them very well in the past, but COVID has proven otherwise, of course. And just in general, the young people of Vietnam are very digitally native now. They're born into a world where they sometimes don't even touch a book, which may be for better or for worse, right? But in this case, we are really this digital native company. So we develop content to reach that audience. I think that's what innovation and being tech-enabled really means for us in terms of our business model.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Hao. I have not, there are some keywords I noted here, like you adapt to the global trend, the technology, and the team are very agile, and also like focus on the digital content. I do see that the story of Vietcetera must be one of the most inspiring startup I ever heard for the quick and like agile change and changing. Yes, quick story. Some of my friends even recommend to his peer when he searched for something, he showed the digital content of Vietcetera or the podcast of Vietcetera as the credible source of information. So we are one of the very like familiar audience of Vietcetera, and it become very famous in Vietnam. So, and I also heard that the Vietcetera is further expanding its network of service to create a comprehensive content ecosystem for young audience also. So coincidentally, many businesses are looking forward to the ecosystem in order to strengthen their competitive advantage. So some say the ecosystem's approach is like building a network out of customer needs. What are your thoughts on this? It is similar to what you are creating at Vietcetera?
Yeah, well, thank you first for your kind words. Yeah, we're growing really fast at the moment, especially the last year. We've made a lot of leadership additions that have allowed us to really kind of grow the team, but also grow the audience. I think when it comes to the future plans of the company, we're doing a lot of title expansion. So using the data, we know that Vietcetera as an identity of a media company, it can only cover so many topics. That's why there's publications that are very focused on business, very focused on women, very focused on cars. It could be anything. And we've realized through our data that while Vietcetera is this broad kind of publication, it actually, in order to grow the ecosystem, we actually need to create new publications that are owned by the network. So in the near future, we're releasing new websites that are owned by us, different brands. Won't be called Vietcetera, we'll call it other brands that are related to topics that we see very high demand for. So in this case, personal finance, real estate, something that's women focused, especially for young women that are starting families or they're beyond their 20s now, I guess you would say. They're moving into, maybe they're making more money, for example. So that's like the kind of future of Vietcetera at the moment, and how we think about growing our business at this time.
Yeah, I love the way we are expanding to and create a content ecosystems. I also heard about the launch of BeluxCham 2021. Can you share with us some?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so CastCamp, for those that don't know, I'll just spell it out in the chat so you can take a look. Just search that on Vietcetera and you'll find it. But basically think of it as like for those of you that are more familiar with Europe than America, it's kind of like a Eurovision, but for podcasters. So we invite the general audience, it could be anyone, famous, not famous, anyone that can essentially compete on this competition. We obviously have like stages so that we filter it down to, in this case, the top 20. We had 620 applications, I believe. And to submit an application, you have to develop a podcast kind of concept and then create 3 episodes for that podcast with certain parameters. So it's actually quite intensive, and the application process was quite time intensive. Anyways, got 600 applications. It's a program sponsored by Prudential Insurance, Bayman, the food delivery company, Heineken, and Tiki. And along with these partners, they sponsor podcast categories according to their business. So Prudential sponsored the personal finance category. Tiki sponsored, I think, entrepreneurship, and so on and so forth. So we're actually in the middle of this program, this initiative now, but it's designed to basically inspire the next generation of content creators in this format, in this case, podcasts. We as a network want to establish ourselves as the thought leaders of podcasting, which we believe is a very high growth business. And yeah, we obviously create our own podcast shows, but this initiative is also a way to build the community. And for the top winners that we select, I think there'll be 4 of them at the end of the day. We, Vietcetera, and along with our brand partners like Prudential, will actually sponsor these creators for the next 12 months. So we will pay them, I think it's like $2,000 a month or something, which is very good to just create your own show. But that show will be owned and hosted on Vietcetera for that 12 months.
It's very interesting because I wrote down like the 3 words that I can capture, that like the content creator, the communities, and user-generated content. I do believe that they are the upcoming trend. It has been a trend, but like if we for sure the trend will grow very fast in the upcoming years. As a marketing manager for a top 5 global corporations, I do believe that like user-generated content is one of a very tough task to manage. I have a question at that point, because like many companies, actually they failed to attempt to create an ecosystem and also a content ecosystem, often due to the being overwhelmed, overloaded with their own idea and product. And also there are so many content that they can like crawl. So do you have any advice how to stay focused and relevant for those companies who would like to pursue this approach?
Yeah, I think curation is very important, meaning that output is not necessarily the goal, but curation is. So I find that a lot of companies like overshare, or maybe the communication is not very, it's too broad, it's not very focused. It's better to have fewer messages than too many. That's my kind of general advice for brands. And in regards to user-generated content, how brands could really leverage that is by creating viral campaigns. So CastCamp, for instance, our initiative, it's partially a brand building initiative for us too. It's not just a way to make money and build community, but it's really a brand thing. We want to be considered a thought leader of this category. So when it came to how to make it viral, user-generated content was a very important part of that. So what we did was embedded in the application process a requirement to actually upload this content on YouTube and Spotify and everything, social media, so that our candidates, per se, contestants, would actually share their submissions online. So if you actually search CastCamp on YouTube, there's like hundreds of videos. If you search it on Spotify, hundreds of podcasts. So check it out. I think, user-generated content, my kind of advice for that is don't overdo it, because you also can't control it, right? Because especially if it's posted on like YouTube and stuff, that's just user-generated content. It can be very powerful if it's curated properly, like the main message is curated properly.
Yeah, So how can we balance between the needs of the company to build up an ecosystem and also balance it with the needs of the customer when they vary into the user-generated content?
That's a hard one to answer. I think for brands, it depends on what your kind of brand is too. I think, you can also say more is better, right? So for example, I used to own a restaurant. It's called Anand Saigon. It's famous for the $100 banh mi and $100 pho. I actually own another restaurant too. That one I still own. It's called CTY. I'll type it in the chat later. We're still closed, so you can't order anything but soon. But anyways, the $100 banh mi place, we enlisted my roommate, who at the time was my roommate. He is the best ever food review show. He has like 7 or 8 million subscribers on YouTube. At the time, he was much smaller. He was like 100,000 or something. Anyways, he proposed creating this video, which I thought was the stupidest thing in the world. But anyways, we allowed it to do it anyways. And it just went crazy. It got like 10 million views. And then we get the $100 pho, and that got another 10 million views. And we actually just started selling it. And then we started selling like 10 a day. And then it became 20 a day. It just became completely mad. So I think that is a version of user-generated content, I guess you could say. Like, they're coming to us with an idea, or they could have just even done it themselves. You know what I mean? Like, it's not something we put out there to do necessarily. So forms of user-generated content can be very powerful, but also very dangerous. Like on social media, brands, especially if you look at a story like Facebook, for instance. There was a bit of a scandal recently where apparently Facebook manipulated their algorithm to show more positive stories about Facebook, because they're getting a lot of negativity at the moment, which is like obviously very bad. But it all started with the fact that Facebook's open platform allows anyone to post anything instantaneously and reach millions of people. So there's a double-edged sword to that. If you're a company that operates in like a sensitive space or needs really hyper-focused curation, or is in a phase of crisis management, like you operate in a sensitive environment, you don't want user-generated content, because that could really blow up. So it really depends.
Yeah, so very agree that it's a very dangerous topic to an area to tap in. But I really like what you share about to stay focused, and also what we really need to do to do only necessary thing. But I do believe that also that today is a topic regarding the technology. So I would like to have a question for Professor Harold regarding to the building up an ecosystems like this. How technology would come in and plays its role. Harold, can you turn on your mic?
I will bring you to a world that is maybe a little bit less known. It's much more B2B, right? And it's more about data and product. But I think it's very interesting to see how the company that we built, called Darts-ip, could move from a tech company. So when we started in 2006, we were certainly a tech company. Everything was available online. It's a collection. We were building the only database in the world of court cases related to IP, related to intellectual property. So all the court cases from all around the world related to trademark, patent, and copyright issue. Okay, which means that we have court cases in English, but we have court cases in Chinese, in Vietnamese, in Japanese, in all languages. And we were feeling we were quite good in structuring those information to make our customers who are lawyers and big companies with an IP team, to make them happy about how to search for those cases. And then, because we know that we always have to progress in tech, we had two big transformations that I want to share, and that led us to the so-called and now famous deep tech. And all these came from machine learning. So back in 2016, one of my partners decided to dive into machine learning and to learn about it from scratch. He had an engineering background, so it wasn't too hard for him. And the first step was purely internal. It didn't change anything for our customers, but it made our process much more efficient. Thanks to the huge training data that we had developed over the years. Don't forget that word, training data, because there is no machine learning without training data. We could automatize the way we were classifying the millions of documents that we were receiving, collecting from all around the world. So the first step of our dive into deep tech was purely internal, but it allowed us to be much more efficient and grow much faster without reducing our 200 people team. We didn't have, it was not about getting rid of people by being more efficient. It was about doing more and faster, okay? Internal deep tech thanks to machine learning. And then 2 years after, we went with deep tech, with machine learning, into developing a new product for our customers. And it was about image recognition. So basically, in short, recognizing some new brands to check whether they could be registered or not, in a nutshell. And what was the consequence for us? We showed it at some conference, and even before being able to launch it in the market, one of the big players in our market, much bigger than us, decided to take over our company with our agreement end of 2019. So we didn't even have the time to penetrate the market with our new tool. It was an instant, the consequence was immediate. We were taken over. Okay, that was end of 2019. It's a few months before the pandemic. The point here is that you dive in deep tech, first of all, can be internal. We didn't hire anyone from outside. Second, it can change the way you run your business. Third, it can become a product that has an impact potentially on many potential customers. And very importantly, this dive of deep tech came to us as a pivot.
Wow,
we changed the way we were running the company. While we were already considered by everyone a tech company, we went much deeper. But more and more companies, they start from scratch with AI and machine learning. And they are challenging the way huge industries are being run. And from many very humble companies with the right specialists, and we're going to talk probably after how to get the right people, they can really challenge existing industries. I read recently about fascinating companies that are challenging the way new designs for cars are being, the simulation of these new designs. It's a process that used to take 6 months with a lot of costs involved. Now it takes 2 hours with AI to check whether the new design of Ferrari or Boeing will meet the right criteria in terms of wind effect. Okay. The other example in processing for B2B, for the industry, a company now becoming famous in Germany called Celonis. they analyze the process of very large company just instantaneously. So it affects everyone, everywhere. It comes often from small companies that dare to challenge the existing situation.
Cool. Yep. Thanks, Professor Harold. Really, like, to be honest, this is the first time I've ever heard of this deep tech approach. Yet the tactics we somehow know, but the first time I really heard about the deep tech and the case study. When I firstly hear about these terms, it seemed to involve a lot of technology, skill, and knowledge. Because, like, I see that you have mentioned about that we start with internal deep tech thanks to machine learning. Then we change the way we run our business. Then we bring more product, and also we have people, we have right people to challenge the existing. So I do believe that it involves a lot of like technology, skill, and knowledge. Why currently I can see that like many business people and CEO actually are coming from the road in certain industry. When they reach to the peak of their journey, they see the potential to work on their own, to start a business. Some also are the investor only. Like not many people are actually with the tech base. For example, me, before I have my own startup company. I have like around 10 years with media marketing and communication. And when I see that, okay, it's my time to start on my journey, I have my own startup. I don't have any technology based, tech based. I'm not a tech based guy. So it seems that like many of us are lacking necessary knowledge in order to embrace technology focused futures. So do you think that like the CEOs or the leaders in this area, they must gain some hard tech skills in order to successfully develop a tech first mindset, Professor?
I think it's not only the CEO. I think it should be part of education from the below 18 young people. It's machine learning or AI should have no secret or even coding should have no secret for any young people graduating from high school. I'm not saying that they should be able to apply it, but they should be able to understand what it is and how it can impact industries. So there is a whole change that is coming in terms of human resources. What I saw in our company is that more and more people who had we had a lot of lawyers in our company for obvious reasons. When I say lawyers, it's people who studied law. But so many of them agreed that it's not enough to study law, and they decided to become techies, right? The techie part of them, learning to code, learning to write MySQL, is not challenging. It's just a mindset, right? So reading books on AI is possible for any of us. Being able to apply AI and to write algorithm is not available to any of us. Okay, but by reading books about what it is and how it can change companies, you will be able to figure out how it can impact your company. And my last words on this topic will be about data. Often people ask me, but how come you were the only one with your company? You had no competitors. Well, it's not because of the tech part. It's because of the data, because of the collection of information. Tech is not necessarily, even deep tech, it's not necessarily a big competitive advantage because many people can reproduce it. I have invested in companies that have to reinvent themselves every year because the situation is changing. One of them, they allow visitors to check in easily in companies. Fantastic. What happened? The pandemic arrives, And what people need is not only to enter in a company, they need to have the right seat where to go, because people want to have free seating. And now they have to reinvent themselves and become a seating business. I mean, with the pandemic or without the pandemic, tech companies have to reinvent themselves permanently. And the only thing that can help you both to create a business, but also to have a long-lasting competitive advantage is data.
Agree, because like I agree with the first thing you mentioned, that okay, it's the part of education, even the young people or like even the CEO, we still need to read books regarding to this, because like sooner or later then technology terms and change economy, and everyone should know about it. And very agree on the like on the things that like it is very challenging, but like it also depends on the mindset. And I see that you mentioned one thing that about like the human factors is the most important one to success with technology. So I suddenly remember that Mr. Hao once he said that like he also seek to recruit young talent with the same mindset, the tech focused mindset. And so I would like to ask Mr. Hao whether that you feel the need to develop a hiring plan or the strategy to welcome the digital native Gen Z as the part of your team. I suppose this is a platform tailored for millennial and Gen Z. So as a platform like that, Vietcetera must have been seen the importance of including talent belonging to your target audience and recruit them into the team.
Yeah, 100%. We everything from internal tools to speaking with our clients, representing the company externally, digital fluency is very necessary. Though with that said, as we've grown, we're about 100 full-time employees now, actually. The need for specialization in different types of digital fluency are becoming much more necessary. And that's where we're finding a lot of difficulty, because yes, there's a lot of young people, and yes, they're digitally native, but that doesn't make them experts at digital. Yeah, they can post on Instagram and TikTok, but can they actually analyze performance marketing? Can they use data tools to create reports that help us make decisions? Not necessarily. So, and there's a lot of different types of new technologies where there just aren't enough experts yet in. So if we were to use a very new example, something like NFTs and decentralized finance, our business is not in that. I'm just an example. It's a very new industry. Like, there are no experts in that. There are people working in the industry, but hiring experts for that is just very difficult. You could say the same for, let's say, e-commerce in Vietnam. We've had quite a few podcasts, for example, on my show with like the former chief people officer at Tiki. And she was explaining that even though, yes, there's a lot of young people, a lot of engineers, but that doesn't make them experts at scaling an e-commerce company. They've actually had to hire people from Amazon that worked at Amazon in the US, which is a highly scaled company at this point, to help them do their, finish their growth plans in Vietnam, because there are no e-commerce senior growth people that have 10 years of experience in Vietnam, unless they've worked abroad. So that's the challenge in Vietnam. It's not about young people that are digitally native. It's about their expertise in specific kind of digital products.
Yeah. So I do think that like agree with that point. I have some experience like this. There are some people we through the interviews we see that like, they are very smart. Sorry, but like they're very smart. But like when it comes into very like technology based tasks and things, that like it's very hard for them to adapt if they do not have any background of that. So yeah. So thank you very much for your sharing, Mr. Hao, and everyone. I do see that like from the sharing from our speaker today, they have provided a very brand new perspective and knowledge and experience to cope with the change of technology and apply the tech leading innovation in the business. I would like to recap some of the points has been discussing here. So from Mr. Hao, he has been sharing about like his aside activities to like bring out a whole content ecosystems focus on like global change in the format, and also focus on the audience. And also I really like interesting in the new terms that Professor Harrod providing us, that is the deep tech. Once you have a new company, you can really like you must really like to take a look at them to build up an internal deep tech team with machine learning, and you have to change the way you run your company. I have one experience with my last corporation, and they have a criteria to justify the ideas. They only accept the idea that can change the way people live, change the way people think. Those are the credible ideas. If you have idea but that do not qualify those things, this is not qualified. Then so we need to change the way we run our business with technology. We cannot run the normal business, the traditional business. Just like at the very beginning of this seminar, Professor Harrod, he already said that like when you have offline business and when you have a new one online, you have two business. Yeah, change the way you manage your company also, and also start to like analyze the needs of your customer through data, and from that bring out a new product. Do not stick with only your traditional ways of curating ideas. Stay focused, use data to take advantage of it and target to the right people that challenge the existing. And also one more thing, really appreciate that like Mr. Hao sharing his like recruitment strategy, and also Professor Harrod on your highlight on the education for everyone. So everyone, let spend your time to read books, adapt new knowledge, to really like to stay on top of the change, and to build up your team. Focus on the one who like have background of technology, but also like focus on the millennial and Gen Z. I hope like I recap some of the big point that the speaker has provided today regarding to the tech lead in innovation of business. Hop on the discussion so far had provided our participants with many helpful and interesting tips. So now speakers, is it probably the time for us to answer some of the concerns by our participants. So I have a long list of the questions that have been submitted before the event start. So, but I also would like to take this chance to ask for the current participants here. If you have any questions regarding to your business or like regarding to today's topic, feel free to type in the chat box. We will try to like prioritize and answer your questions. Yeah, and I will starting to point out some of the questions that I received from the audience. So there's one first question. That is from Kevin. The question is, how can AI contribute in a more uncertain environment? And I think like I would like to invite Professor Harrod to answer these questions.
Thank you, Dad. Thank you, Mr. Kelvin, for this very to the point question. Why to the point? Because AI, to me, is very useful in terms of prediction. So in an uncertain environment, thanks to the historic data that you will have accumulated, without historic data, no AI, you can predict, I wouldn't dare to say predict the future, but predict the outcome. Whether it's, like I mentioned, for design, will it fit the criteria of wind penetration, or whether it's a potential court case. Who's gonna win the court case? You can predict it now. Okay, so in my perspective, the biggest thing that can come from AI is prediction. We can come and dive into the topic of e-health, right? E-health is a big thing that is coming now and that is boosted by pandemic, right? Now that people can't access hospital or their doctor, e-health is booming. But it's only accelerating a trend that would have come anyway. Because thanks to AI and e-health, symptom of your sickness can be analyzed, and a doctor, still a manual doctor, could make predictions thanks to AI about what sickness you have. Okay, so AI to me is synonymous with prediction, and that's why it's so important in a world that is more and more uncertain indeed.
Yeah. So I really like the term predictions. It's for sure that like later that like with AI, because AI is the tools that like analyze the big data. So with AI, I think that like we can do a lot. I believe that our society one day will be very modern with AI. Yeah. So
excuse me, may I ask again?
Yeah.
Yes, for me, AI will extrapolate from past data, right? It will build on past experiences, but now we are entering in a totally unknown territory. All parameters are changed. So I'm afraid that AI may give some wrong predictions.
AI is never, the education, the historic data that AI is using has to be permanently updated. AI is not something that is built one day and then used for years. So I'm quite confident in good applications of AI precisely because it has to be permanently updated. It's not a static tool.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, very interesting question. It also challenges the way we absorb one ideas. Thanks, Mr. How can I say? Kevin. Yeah, Kevin. Yeah. Also, I have another questions. So this one is like, what are some new technology invented due to the COVID pandemic? And actually, I just heard that Professor Hao Tran mentioned about e-health. Is there any new things that like maybe like in Europe, in other countries, but not in Vietnam? Maybe in Vietnam we may know, but like in the whole like modern industry. Can you?
So yes, e-health is a perfect example of technology that is changing thanks to the pandemic, but I would say in Vietnam as well. I have received in my mailbox several offers to use e-health in Vietnam because it allows people to stay at home, and when they if they are F0 or something like this, they can receive the first instruction at home thanks to e-health. So it already applies in Vietnam.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and I myself as a citizen, I do believe that like I'm very proud that like daily the government sends us the text message to our phones, hey, stay in the house. Because like I think it's very agile, and that's one of very activity that need to receive our appraisal. Yeah. How about you and Hao? Like I know that like from your platform you have a lot of content. So is there any news and like trends that you can share with us? That is something that like very like never before appears during the COVID situation?
So COVID didn't like necessarily help us create new technologies. I mean, I'm sure there are, but when I was thinking about your question, I couldn't really name any. With that said, it accelerated a lot of new technologies that have already been created. So e-health is one of them. You know, what else is being accelerated? Just like e-commerce, you know, buying the habits of buying online, cashless payments. Like a lot of these things had already been invented, but they've been accelerated because of COVID. Even using Zoom. Actually, I never even knew about Zoom until like COVID. I mean, I knew about it, but I had never used it. And if I did a video call, it was usually international, and it was usually just like using Google, because you know everyone uses Gmail, or sometimes Microsoft Teams if they're a bigger corporate. But Zoom was never used, and you know, out of nowhere, I mean, they were already like $1 billion company. It was a pretty big company, but then it became even bigger. I think through Vietcetera, we with the access of data that we have, and obviously a lot of people are staying at home, so they're consuming more content. We saw what people were getting interested in more so than before the pandemic. So in the last 3 months, especially, we saw a lot of interest in wellness, especially mental wellness. We saw a lot of interest in personal finance, and we saw a lot of interest in careers. Those three particular segments for content were just growing very quickly. And as a result, helped inform us what kind of more content we should invest in. So that's why, you know, personal finance or like real estate, things about money, saving, investing, spending money, those areas are of high interest at the moment.
Yeah. Actually, like the two topics you mentioned is the mental wellness, and the mental wellness, and also the personal finance, the investment are the two topics like that attract by the social listening tool, and it like highly increased since like the beginning of this year, from last year also, but like very highly come to the peak at this year. And there are so many like not only technology but like the new topic, and I believe after this there will be more companies born during this time, like, and there's one example. It will not be the very like technology based, but I do see the importance of transportation, because like the application like Grab, Uber have been like growing very fast, but during this time people realize that how important they are. How important they are, and I believe that like the growth of them might lead to the growth of the whole industry. Yeah, I have another questions, and this questions is really like very relevant to what Professor Harold shared previously about the education. But like I would like to ask for your more opinion on this. Like Mr. 𝐄𝐯 has asked, how can I develop my knowledge and skills to adapt technology innovation in my business?
I think I mean, there isn't necessarily any specific answer for that, but I would encourage you and everybody else that, you know, doesn't feel like they're very digitally fluent to learn independently. I mean, there's like like on YouTube, for instance, there's a lot of, I wouldn't call them courses, but there's a lot of like, you know, do it yourself kind of things. Because during something like a pandemic, you have to adapt very quickly. And learning from others is the best way to do that quickly. So that's what I would suggest. I don't have any specific like YouTube channels or like content to refer you today, but like depending on your kind of challenge, let's say you, you know, to use the example that Harold had earlier about you were a retail shop and now you need to sell online, how are you going to do that? I mean, there's countless like content about that online, I'm sure. You can also, I would say, you know, during these difficult times, it's good to speak with other entrepreneurs. So if you're a business owner, learning from others about how they're doing things, you could kind of crowdsource knowledge and best practices. You know, I'm very lucky to have a network of people that have similar professional kind of setups as me. It's like, you know, we're starting our own business or, you know, hiring people, whatever. It's good to get feedback from them as well.
Yeah, very like I think that like your input are very like resonative for like it is very relevant to like to many young people, and also like from my point of view, when you mentioned about like the networking with people, I certainly remember to the benefit before I start the course in Solvay, because one of the benefit is that like once you join a master course, what the most valuable thing you have is the network up as professional people. So this made me want to ask Professor Hao to answer this question from your opinions. So when you talk about like when you need to advise to Mr. Chung regarding to this question that like how he can develop his skill and knowledge, do you have any advice for him?
I think Hao answered perfectly well. There is it's really the combination of learning and sharing, and you quickly mentioned your experience with an MBA. That this is one of the way where you can combine in one learning and sharing, because you learn every day and you share with your community of the other participants in the MBA, and it's something that lasts forever. So the learning can be self-learning, can be courses, it can be online, it can be offline. More and more it's going to be a combination of both, even for schools that used to be predominantly or only offline. More and more, if I was a teacher offline, I would also recommend to follow online classes on topic that, for example, I would not master well. I think the association of offline and online for any business and for education is the key thing to remember about technology. It's not that technology will replace human interaction, it's that technology makes the activity you have, whether it's education, business, much more scalable.
Yeah, I very like agree, more than agree with the two speakers, because I heard one terms back then like in like around like 1 year ago. I heard one term that like if you learned and you are not sharing it, that's the information, not the knowledge. So like I really like this term, and I do believe that everyone, once you learn something, go and share it with people. That's the best way to like utilize the information into your day-by-day work. And also I have one last question. I have too many questions here, but like I would like to pick for one last question from my point, that like the question from Darts-ip, Mr. Darts-ip. So he has a question that how to lead the market and how to see the niche in the market. And I think like this question is somehow very broad, but like regarding to this to the topic today, do you have any advice for them? Because I do believe that like for the small business and mid-range business, when they are doing some transformation, one that's invest in something, they must be very careful, and they really like need to do something that like they are confident with that. They feel okay, somehow they are owning a niche market kind of thing. So any advice on that, Professor Hao?
Well, I've been niche market is something that can really define our company, Darts-ip, because it's really a perfect example of a niche. So I love niche. I would give as an advice, maybe because I'm a fan of data, if you find a set of data that is quite unique, then you have a very good basis for a niche. It's not because you have a set of data that you have a business, but it's if you identify a set of data that has not been used, there is a it's worth checking whether it could be a nice niche business potential. And the second part of my answer is about if you have an existing company, I would really recommend that you share your perspective and your ambition to find the right niche with your team. Whether you have 5, 10, or 50 people, ideas typically come much faster and much better if you have everyone involved than if you think that as a CEO or as a founder, you're going to find it by yourself. So don't be afraid to ask, to work with the team, and they will feel even more motivated and empowered if you ask them that question.
Yeah. So we also have a comment from Sabrina Couch in our chatbot. Sometimes the innovation comes from the employees. Provide them the idea hubs. You will be surprised by the ideas. So it's somehow very linked with your answers, and I also agree. But then during my master course with Solvay, we have taken a course called Creative Ideations, and we have gone through a process of creating idea from multiple thoughts to a concise one that's really ready to bring to life. So if you really need have come to Solvay team, they have enough information to help you with that. Yep. And I have one question from Mr. Hao and Hao. So I believe that this question is very broad also. Well, I think from your as an owner of a content ecosystem, hope you have enough information to have the audience to answer this one. How much will technology contribute to the development of Vietnamese economy in 2025?
Well, it's interesting you say the year 2025, because I actually did an analysis yesterday for my 2022 business plan, but looking for the next 5 years, about how large the digital advertising market will be in Vietnam. So right now, I mean, just to give a snapshot. So right now, the advertising market in Vietnam is $2.8 billion US. And by 2025, it's been estimated to grow to $7 billion US. That's for digital advertising. So what is that? That's almost 3 times, well, 2.5-ish. That's quite a big jump over 5 years. Digital advertising, I think, is a good kind of indicator for other types of new technology businesses. And yeah, for those of the companies that are not technology companies, that's a good signal to invest into digital transformation, invest in all those areas that will get your company to be more competitive and more innovative. And I think, how important is it going to be? It's going to be very important, because especially during COVID, we see a lot of the traditional industries suffer a lot. So manufacturing, agriculture, services, retail, food and beverage, the more kind of like traditional businesses, and that will only accelerate the demand and need to digitize. So I think for those companies and people already in that space, it's going to be a very fruitful 5 years. I think for the industries that have suffered quite a bit over the last few months, and really the last 2 years, actually, they really need to get going in terms of being more digitally native.
Yeah. So I believe that your question really show the big pictures of how the economy would be in the next 4 years, not 5 years. In the next 4 years, we are going to end 2021 here. So yeah, and I think that that's also the last questions of today. So if you guys have any more questions, feel free send to the team, and we will have more contact with you regarding your questions. I see Yuki raising your hands. Okay. So if not, then I would like to extend our thanks to very sincere thanks to Mr. Hao Tran and Professor Harold for your practical and valuable insight. And I would like again to summarize some of the key points that we have discussed today for you guys. First one, we will have different types of business model and stage at which we can adjust them. And also the ecosystem approach and the deep tech approach are the two things that you need to focus and apply to build apply to your company. Remember that like always focus on the tech first mindset and understand how the human factor play the utmost important role in the companies, especially in the upcoming year. And I also would like to thanks for all the participants for being here today. Your interaction have to give a depth to our discussion, and thank you. We hope to see you again in our future event.
Thank you, Dad.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dad.
Thank you very
Harold,
much.
nice to meet
Thank
you.
you, Dad.
Yeah.
Everyone,
thank you.
we would like to have you a little bit moment. Miss Yum, can you present BeluxCham for the closing?
Actually, I just got the last request because this is can say that BeluxCham, we are very much pleasure to together with Solvay Business School to organize the event today. And so we just would like to take this opportunity the last minute to say the big thank you to Professor Harold and anh Hao Tran for the how to say a great sharing today. I'm not into the technology area, but all the sharing today is very necessary to own the company to apply into their daily work. And I'm sure that if we can develop more further deep dive into the technology investment into the startup or company, it could be even better in the future. So thank you very much, and thank you that for the lead today. You did a great job. And last, of course, thank everyone for participating today. We hope that you have a great time and you enjoy the webinar. Next week, we are going to have another EVFTA webinar with the subject about the Belgium custom in Vietnam on the 1st October. So if you would like to join the webinar, please check our website and Facebook. That's all for today. Thank you once again, and a great to have all of you today. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So it's time for us, like it's also the end of our event today. Feel free to turn on camera, and I would like to have our IT help us to take a captures our participants. So prepare your hair, makeup, and then turn on the camera. We will have a screenshot. It's not a screenshot. Yeah, we will count. Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, I heard the click sound. Thank you everyone for participating in our seminar. Hope to see you in a very close future event. Many thanks.